All right, everybody, welcome back. And first off, I want to say a big thank you to everybody so far that has helped grow this channel. Everybody that's come by and dropped me a like, dropped me a comment, interacted with me online. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so we can continue to grow this channel with your help and we continue to spread this message. So today we're going to talk about a few things. And what I want to start out with today is why do I carry? As a Democrat, as a liberal, why do I carry a firearm if everything that the political pundits and mainstream media tell me I'm supposed to be anti-gun? And what it boils down to is personal security and family security. I very much like being alive. I like breathing out of this world. I'm a big foodie, and I want to continue to be that. And I love my family, and I want to be able to provide for them the best security that I can, which is why I carry, which is why I continue to train with it. Several years ago, I was actually open carrying one day, and I was asked why I carry a firearm, and I told the nice lady that asked me that question, well, it's for personal security, and she said, well, do you live in a bad part of town? And I said, no, ma'am. I said, I live maybe 2 miles from here. She's like, well, this is a pretty safe area, so why do you carry a firearm? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, if you called 911 right now, what do you think would be their response time? And she thought about it for a second. She said, I don't know. I said, probably about 2-3 minutes. I said, if you're lucky, and that's if there happens to be a cop nearby, a police officer nearby. I said, average response time is anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes here in the city. And if you get the further out you go, the longer that is. It could be up to 15 minutes. And I told her, I said, my entire world can be taken from me in less than 3 minutes. So everything I can do to mitigate that, I'm going to do. And that's what it breaks down to for me, personal security and family security. So which leads me to my next topic of discussion, and that's law enforcement interaction. So we've all seen what's been going on in the news nowadays, in the last couple of days, and it's made me think about law enforcement interaction while carrying, and that has happened to me. I'm not saying I haven't had any interactions with ICE or DHS or anything like that, but I have been pulled over because I have a terrible lead foot. So I have been pulled over, and while I was carrying, and I fell back on what I've always been told, which is roll your windows down, keep your hands attended to. When the officer comes up, ask for your license, just volunteer that you are carrying a weapon. I know that there are a lot of states where you don't have to do that, and there are a lot of people that will say, oh, don't do that, don't volunteer that kind of information, blah, and that kind of thing. And that is fine, that is for you. As for me, and I am not just, let me make this disclaimer, this is not legal advice, and I'm not telling you what to do, but for me, I have found that the safest course of action for me has always been to inform the officer that, yes, I am carrying, yes, I do have a permit for it. 100% of the times, the interaction has been just fine. They've asked me to keep my hands where they can see them, and I won't have a problem, you won't have a problem. They've asked for my name, date of birth, I give it to them, they run my information, everything comes back fine, and off I go. I get my ticket. And off I go. How you choose to interact with law enforcement is entirely up to you. There's the company that I work for has this equation. It's called E plus R equals O. The event plus your reaction equals the outcome. So the event of me being pulled over plus my reaction to that, either to volunteer the information or not to volunteer the information, could dictate the outcome. Does dictate the outcome of the situation. And it's like I said, 100% of the time that's happened with me, I've had a positive, nothing but a positive outcome from it. Here in the state of Georgia, there is no duty to inform law, as there's some states that are, just a real quick list, it's Alaska, Arkansas, California, but that is county dependent, I have found out, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Louisiana, Maine, if carrying without a permit, Michigan, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, if carrying without a permit, and Texas, which that last one kind of surprised me because I do know that Texas is a constitutional carry state, and that a majority of people there, from what I hear, do open carry without a problem. So I think it's just if you're carrying concealed or if you happen to have it either in the glove box, side panel, center console, tucked under the seat, that kind of thing. So yeah, here in the state I live in, there is no duty to inform. But how that relates to what's been going on is more and more people, more and more progressives, more and more people on the left, I will say, do want to go out and protest some of these ICE operations that are going on. 100% agree. Get out there, get in their way, but be respectful of it. And also recognize that there are states where it is illegal to carry at a political rally. So you have to do your due diligence about that one and whether or not that is legal, because you could be violating state law if you are found with a concealed handgun or a concealed weapon, firearm rather, at a political rally. And the way things seem to be progressing is law enforcement will stop you and ask you and turn your pockets out for no reason, just for filming, just for being there, for being supportive. So use caution, exercise some good judgment, but at the end of the day, we all have free will about that. So the final point that I want to touch on is my take on the Renee Good shooting by ICE agent Jonathan Ross. I've taken the last couple of days to do some research, watch the videos, watch multiple videos, from 4 or 5 different camera angles now, and try to keep an open mind, which I think we need to do. We need to continue to do here on the left. We don't need to close our minds down to what's going on. As don't pick a narrative, stick to the narrative, keep an open mind. And so that being said, there is fault, I feel like, on both sides. Did Renee Good and her partner have the right to be there protesting? Absolutely, 100%. Constitutional protected First Amendment right to be there. Do I feel like she intentionally tried to ram the officer? Not at all. I don't feel like that at all. After I watched the videos and you see her, and I'm not going to play him, I'm not going to put him up here because we've all seen him 100 times, 1,000 times by now. So you see her wave one vehicle through and then motion to wave the second vehicle through, and the second vehicle happens to stop. The agents get out, begin to interact with her, order her out of the fucking car, try to pull her door open, and that's while that interaction is going on, you see the officer who ultimately unalived her walk around the passenger side to the front of the vehicle, holding a cell phone. He holds a cell phone. So while he's doing that, and then she backs up, cuts her wheels, tries to move forward, which to me looks like she's trying to follow their directions and get out of the way, which is what they told her initially to do, because she didn't want to have her door jerked open. It was a very confusing situation. I can understand her panicking, which I think is something that a lot of the pundits on the right are not recognizing, they're not understanding, is when you're ordered 3, 4, 5 different commands in the span of about 15 seconds, it's hard to know which one to follow. So confusion and panic can set in. Now, where I place the blame on the agent who ultimately pulled his weapon and unalived her, is what I'm continuing to say, looked like a lapse in judgment, a lapse in training, because I have not been able to find a single department that trains you to approach a vehicle with a suspect with your cell phone in hand, recording it. Like, that's what body cams are made for. And if you already have 2 other agents there who are addressing the issue, why do you feel the need to interject yourself into that? For one. For 2, I haven't been able to find any law enforcement agency who trains their officers to place themselves in harm's way in what's called that fatal funnel in front of the vehicle, knowing that the vehicle can be used as a battering ram, as a deadly weapon. From what I understand, that is not a tactic that is commonly trained in law enforcement anywhere. If you know different, please drop it down in the comments and let me know if that actually is a law enforcement training tool or a training tactic. But everything that I've been able to research is you don't place yourself in in that kind of a situation. And also, there are court cases and there is law that states that you cannot place yourself in harm's way in order to trigger this shooting. So the officers are not allowed to place themselves in front of a vehicle with the intention or with the probability that the vehicle will move forward and they will be forced to use deadly force. That is not something that they're allowed to do, which goes back to that training. And another thing that I found out is this particular Agent Ross was involved in another incident in June of 2025 where they were trying to arrest an immigrant, had him blocked on the street, and then Agent Ross shattered his window with a spring-loaded punch tool, reached inside to turn the vehicle off, and the person they were trying to arrest drove off, dragging the officer with him. Tragic. That is absolutely terrible. Agent Ross wound up with, he did wind up in the hospital, 31 stitches, I believe, with cuts and bruises on the inside of his arm and injuries to his leg. So, which led me to think about, like, is that a common training tactic to just bust somebody's window out when you have other agents, you have backup, you have other people around, to just bust the window out, reach inside a car that is still running, that is not placed in park, and try to take the keys out of the ignition, or try to turn the vehicle off? Is that something that's commonly taught? Haven't been able to find that out either. So, like, these are things that are leading me to believe that it's more a lack of judgment, a lack of viable training, and just bad situational awareness on the officer's part. So here's a hot take. All right, guys and girls, here's a hot take. That ICE officer was in the military, and he did deploy during the GWAT, and over to, I believe it was Iraq, it might have been Afghanistan, but he did deploy overseas. And with what's been going on, and I say that because, first, I thank him for his service and his service to his country. And with what's going on, and the reason why I bring that up is because it seems like nowadays law enforcement here is looking at people and protesters and American citizens as insurgents, as domestic T-words, because that's how they were trained to look at people. For 22 years now, we've been at war. And so there are 22 years worth of people trained to look suspiciously at other people, to shoot first, ask questions later, to be suspicious of every kind of activity, whether standing there on a corner, driving down the road, it doesn't matter. That was ingrained in their head. That's what they were trained for. Some of them, and those that deployed overseas, who may have seen combat, lost comrades, and lost brothers and sisters in arms, and they have that trauma and that PTSD that goes along with that, and that sticks with you. And anybody that has that trauma from their past knows that anything can trigger it. So it has got me wondering if, like, the negative side effect of 22 years worth of war is that we now have a law enforcement community that looks at the American citizens the same way that they looked at insurgents, and the same way they looked at at foreign T-words when they were overseas looking for the bad guys. Like, if you're trained to look for bad guys anywhere, it's hard to find good guys. So, like, I do have a question about that, and I don't know how you feel. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if I may be on track with that, or if I'm just completely off base. But that is something that I have begun to think about. So I'm going to end the video right there. You guys, please, again, like, subscribe, drop me a comment, let me know what you're thinking, and we'll see you on the next video. Appreciate it.